So we're going to start as we are. If you need to lie down to begin with, that's fine, but the physical practice is going to start vertical. But I would just encourage you for a moment to check in with yourself, what you're bringing with you, and to say a big thank you to you for your donations, and to acknowledge the reason that we're here, whereby there are so many things in the world where our help could be beneficial, so many things that we would like to change. And there are so many that it seems we cannot change. And perhaps by offering our money, yes, and also our intentions, we are at the very least allowing our fellow humans to stay at front and center of our minds and our hearts. And maybe they'll only be at front and center for a short moment while we go in and do our donation, and maybe in moments this evening. And we can't be expected to sustain that holding at front and center forever and for each moment. And so I wonder if you might take a moment of connection with yourself, perhaps with a hand on your heart and or a hand on your belly. And notice with tenderness your capacity right now. What is the capacity of my heart? What is the capacity of my deep belly, my knowing, my strength? And if we were to look into the yogic notion of the Ananda Maya Kosha, the heart or bliss layer, where in our hearts it is said in yoga that we hold at all times a tiny seed of joy. And that sometimes that seed is more shrouded, sometimes it is aglow. And just noticing for you right now, how is your heart layer? And in your difficulty, can you feel it? Can you feel that tiny seed? And though I don't think it is in yoga, I have a strong sense that in our bellies, even at difficult times, we hold a nugget of strength. Somehow we know it's there, even in difficult times. Could you notice now the state of your nugget of strength in your belly? And as you return to your heart, could you offer it a conscious sense of connection from your hand? What is the quality of touch that your hand is bestowing upon your heart? Is it just there and not really connected? Is it full of wishing for change? Or is that hand able to imbue compassion and patience? And either aloud or to yourself, could you say to yourself, I am in safe hands? And then either aloud or to yourself, or you could even write it into the comments if you would feel that you would like it to be heard and seen and witnessed. And if you would like it witnessed, I will read it out anonymously. One word to describe your heart's feeling right now. And we'll just sit in stillness and quiet for 1 minute, welcoming deep breath if that's available to you, feeling free to have your eyes open or closed, looking around the room or still, whatever you feel you need. 1 minute. And then take a moment to notice your physical self, your tiredness or energy, your willingness or unwillingness to move. And with the feeling that you are holding in your heart and the feeling of your body, could you find your way up to standing, but not onto your mat? And it might be that you get up really reluctantly or like a little spring bunny, whatever way your body and your energy will allow, but not onto your mat just yet. And then just take a moment again to notice how you are. Tired, jittery, joyous, calm. And rather than trying to be calm or any particular fabulous expected sensation that we're supposed to feel in yoga, could you step onto your mat or your mat space in that energy? Take it with you. You may not be using a mat today, but wherever you're going to move, consciously step on with you as you are. Honor how you are. And notice again, how does it feel to be you? And we're going to start to move with how we feel. So what I'd love you to do is begin by swaying, or if you don't want to sway, there might be some other way you'd like to move. It might be shaking or bouncing. And let the movement that you're making be kind of like if you were a 5-year-old kid and you wanted the person in the room with you to know how you were feeling. So like your current sensations version of a kid's tantrum. So maybe you're feeling puffy and you just want to show that in a little attitude. Maybe you're feeling jittery and you want to shake. Maybe you're feeling joyous and you want to dance around the room. Maybe you're feeling funny and you want to jump up and down and wobble your bits. And as you move, whatever you're doing, let it affect your arms, please, whether that's throwing them all about or swafting them in the air or swinging them around. Something that makes your arms move. Anything else is up for grabs. And we're beginning to move the heart tissue. You might prefer moving like this with music, but I'd like you to find the music of your body and the music of your mood and see how that affects your body. And we're working emotionally with our mood, but also think, how can I move my arms so that I move my heart physically, my vascular tissue? You don't have to stay on the mat if you have a mat. And then let me guide you if you want, and ignore me if you don't want to be guided. We're going to swing. And we're going to let the heel that wants to come off the floor come off the floor. You're going to be rising up the heart rate here, deliberately, moving the tissues, moving with or shifting our mood as it may or may not happen. I'm even giving your back a little bit of a whack to say hello to the back. Don't forget to breathe. And then we'll swing sideways, possibly the only time you'll ever make a movement like a golfer. And again, feel the heart tissue, maybe even feeling the lymphatic regions of the armpits, chest, breasts, the waist, the belly, maybe the fronts of the hips, and the movement and the heart rate. Another few of these. And then stand and just take a moment to notice how you are. Notice your heart rate, your body temperature, and your mood. And then we're going to do some heel taps. You're going to bang the floor kind of hard with your heels. This is great for bone density, by the way, any percussive effort. You can turn it into jumps, but not if you've recently had a vertebral fracture. You can jump and jump, or you can stay with just bouncing without the jumping. Any of those three. And just see what you see. And then when you're ready, pause again and notice what you notice. And don't ever pause if you don't want to pause. If you want to keep going with anything, keep going. If you want to stop sooner, stop sooner. And again, notice how you are. And take a moment to wait until you're ready to breathe deeply again, as the heart rate begins to slow again. You're welcome to have eyes open or closed, tuning in. And then if you have one word to speak into the air or to say to yourself to describe how you're feeling now on an emotional level, feel free to speak that. And bringing it with you to what I was taught initially as ha breath, H-A breath. And then actually it was Lisa here who in a workshop used the term the breath of joy. But I'm slightly changing it to a cyclic sighing version, and I'm calling it the breath of now. And it is a breath of expression of how you are now. Again, it's that toddler or that kid who really wants to be heard. The difference in the breath, so breath of joy is usually a 3-part inhale, but I'm bringing in cyclic sighing here as a well-researched shortcut to nervous system regulation. It's like a yawn, so it goes, so it's just 2-part breath. We breathe mostly in, and then we finish the breath in. You don't have to do the fancy arms if you want. You could just go, or we go. And then we're going to come out with a sound like a ha or a woohoo or whatever you want. Now, just one piece with regard to osteoporosis. If you have osteoporosis, please don't fling yourself forward and down. For those of us with osteoporosis, we're just going to bounce down straight with a straight spine. The rest of you can flop forward, no problem. I encourage you as we get going, if you feel like it, to unmute yourself so we can hear each other. But if you feel a bit self-conscious about that, you're welcome to keep your microphone off. But what I would like to come out of your mouth is the expression of whatever you need expressed, and it might change. We're going to do 20. Stop if you need to, continue longer if you want to. Any sound, let it change. Breath of joy, anger, anything. So let's begin. I'm going to make sounds at the beginning, but then I'm going to stop making sounds so that I'm not influencing your sounds. And off we go. One more. Let it be expressed, whatever you have, joy, bliss, anger, fear, anything at all. And if people are hearing you so much the better, let them know too. 5 more. And letting it go if you're ready to let go, carrying on if you want, and finishing in any position you'd like to finish in. Movement or stillness. Notice again what you notice. When you're ready for stillness, please come to stillness. When you're ready for deeper breaths, please engage in deeper breaths. And take your eyes upwards so that they're looking straight ahead of you rather than down at the floor or at the screen. And allow your gaze to stay at a fixed point, but don't be interested in the thing you're looking at. Just stay still. Your eyes are still. And as you keep your eyes still, try to see as much as you can to the left of you and the right of you. If you don't know whether you're seeing to the left and right of you while looking straight ahead, try and name in your mind something that you can see left and right. Really try very hard to see what you're seeing out of the outer corners of your eyes. And as you do this, notice what the physical sensations are around your eyes. And notice if there's any physical sensations around the mouth. And what you might find is you try very hard to open your peripheral vision as a broadening at the outer corners of the eyes and a broadening at the outer corners of the mouth. And notice what is the sensation across your chest physically. Does it feel broader? And then take your 2 arms out to the sides and take them a little bit further back than you can see them. Wriggle the fingers and then bring the arms forward till you can see the wriggle in the corners of your eyes without looking left and right. And that may really help to cement this idea of peripheral vision. And notice how that feels. Keep the arms elevated and tilt the chin slightly up so that you're looking maybe to the top of the wall in front of you. So not a neck stretch, just a slight elevation. And could you imagine that you are looking at a humongous blue sky? And see how that changes things. Breathing, noticing, shifting. Inhale here. And as you exhale, bend your knees, take the spine forward, bringing your hands behind your back, perhaps interlacing your fingers or just holding your elbows. Draw the shoulders slightly down from the ears and lengthen the back of your neck as if you're giving yourself a slight double chin. Neutral spine all the way for those of us with osteoporosis. If you don't have osteoporosis, you're welcome here to, on your next exhale, hang forward. If you do have osteoporosis, you're welcome to turn the toes out and come down to a squat. If you can't squat, we're all going to anyway step one foot back, knee to the floor, hands to the floor, and the other foot back. Coming onto all fours. We're going to get a little effortful now. So isometric contraction is the kind of contraction that seems to be the tip-top supporter of blood pressure regulation. Of all the contractions we can do in the muscles, isometric wins the day. So we are going to tuck our toes, inhale here, draw the navel gently towards the spine, and as you exhale, just float your knees a millimeter off the floor. Now, if they won't float, don't float them, but just think about floating your knees a millimeter off the floor. So you're staying with neutral spine. And because I'm wearing baggy trousers, of course, didn't think of that, did I? My knees don't look like they're off the floor. And push back through the feet, lifting through the pelvic floor slightly, toning the lower abdomen slightly, micro bending your elbows so you're not locking those joints, and giving yourself a slight double chin to ease out the neck. For 5, keep breathing. 4, 3, 2, 1. Relax that effort. And we're going to rock back and forwards into, without osteoporosis, it can come to child's pose, or you can come to puppy pose, or just a rocking back and forward with neutral spine. So we're kind of going from child's pose / puppy pose to a kneeling plank. So you might want to cheat the hands slightly forward so that you get into more of a long spine than all fours, a diagonal in the thighs. Knees any distance apart you like. Just check in that this is okay with your wrists. If your wrists are struggling, come down to your elbows. Move with your own current breath preferences for length and whether you want to inhale forwards or exhale forwards. And juicing up the shoulders, knees, and hips. And the next time we get forwards, check in again with your wrists and stay here. So what can really help the wrists is to take the hands further forward so they're not directly under the shoulders, but that can mean that your core has to work stronger. And the other thing that can help with your wrists is to come down to your elbows, come up to your knuckles, or fold the front of your mat and bring the heels of the hands onto the front of the mat. We're going to stay in kneeling plank. As much as possible, a straight line from the knees to the back of the head, a bit more isometric work coming up here. So could you imagine you're picking up a tissue, and apologies for the one male that's joining us today, picking up a tissue with your vagina from a tissue box. So this little light mula bandha. Shoulders back from the ears, elbows micro bent. Tuck your toes and either stay here or try to lift your knees without success as if they're super glued to the floor, and you'll feel loads of isometric work there. And you're welcome to stay here or win over the super glue and lift the knees into full plank, really up to you. Try and work with what gives you a sense of challenge for the whole length of the body, muscles drawing into bone, but doesn't give you a sense of vulnerability in your lower back, shoulder, neck, for example. 2 more breaths here if you can manage, obviously coming down sooner if you want or need to. And when you're ready, bring your knees to the floor. And if you can do a sitting kneel, come back to a sitting kneel. If your knees, ankles don't like that, you can come to a standing kneel, of course. And just take a moment to relax the hands. You don't have to do anything special with them. I prefer stillness. Some people like shaking them out. But I think the wonderful thing is that if we go for stillness, we'll notice that the intensity does dissipate on its own and that we don't maybe need to panic so much about undoing those intensities, which is a bit like emotions. They say that intense emotional states don't last more than 90 seconds. Doesn't mean we don't have prolonged grief and sadness, but those intense moments, apparently. When you're ready, could you get some sort of prop that can make the floor higher? So it could be a chair or a stool, yoga bricks or yoga bolster at the top of your mat. And again, I'm trying to do practices here that don't necessarily need a mat. So if you don't have a yoga mat with you, you should be fine, but just be careful of slippy feet. You might need to be on a different kind of floor, for example. And I highly recommend that you fold a blanket or you pleat your yoga mat, if you do have one, for your knees. All of this can be done with the knee that's on the floor off the floor. So when you're ready, from your standing kneel, take your right foot forward, and it's going to go, if you have a bolster, probably your toes are going to tuck under the bolster or between blocks if you have a block. And come to bring your fingertips onto your bolster and stay nice and tall. And just notice if you have a tendency to want to drop or push the hips forward and down, and just try and undo that slightly by thinking again of lifting up a tissue from a tissue box with your vagina, or thinking about imagining you've a pencil in the front of your right hip here and you don't want to break the pencil, keeping space for a pencil there. And we're going to inhale here. And as you exhale, pull your left knee forward and your right foot back and just feel that muscular effort. Inhale, relax, and also relax the pelvic floor. Exhale, pull the right foot back, push the left knee forward, and you feel that effort and a rising up through the head and a toning of the pelvic floor. Inhale, relax. Exhale, pull the right foot back and slide the left knee forward. Feel your strength and know that you are squeezing the very capillaries of your blood system, your cardiovascular system. Inhale, relax. And then exhale, settle halfway. So there's a little activation in the legs, but not as fantastical as we just had. And keeping the left fingertips on your prop, and you take the right arm and bring it down to your left front hip, right hand across the body. And we're going to inhale and float that arm forwards and up to the ceiling, let the chest go with it. And as you exhale, bring it down in line with your chest. So don't pull it back behind you. Let it go in line with your chest so that when you turn to look at your thumb, it's a really natural turn of the head. And feel that sense of connection from your heart to your fingertips, almost as if rather than stretching, you are reaching from the heart through the arm to the fingers. And keep breathing. And we're going to inhale here, your next inhale. Exhale, arm up, follow it with your eyes, forwards and down to your left hip. Two more like that, but just with the flow. Inhale, arm up and back, follow with the eyes. Exhale, arm up and over and down. One more time, breathing in, moving from heart to fingertips, and breathing out. Take your right hand to your supports, take your right knee back. I think if this thing that you've got your hands on doesn't feel unsteady, this is a really nice place to do face down dog. But if you feel like what your hands are on is very mobile, it wouldn't be a great idea. And just bring your hands then to the floor and come into face down dog, which I always teach and practice with slightly bent knees, because I know forward folds were what did in my back when I was a pushy yogi. So I always teach them with slight bend of knee, and that's also helpful for those of us with the need to maintain neutral spine for safety. And I offer you this as a moment to bring in some sensual movement. Maybe it is a wriggling of the hips or a swishing of the tail. And if your body's not liking this, usually it's the upper body. You could come to a wall or a windowsill or a chair and do a standing face down dog. Couple more breaths, unless you're ready to stop. And when you're ready, bring your two knees down, and we're going to step the left foot then up under your bolster or between your blocks. I didn't say the last time, and I should have, that the knee is far enough behind you that the thigh's on a diagonal, so you're not here in a vertical back thigh. And we're going to inhale to soften, and exhale, pull the left foot back and the right knee forward. There's no visible change, just a thought in the muscles. Inhale, relaxing also the pelvic floor and the jaw. Exhale, pull the left foot back, the right knee forward, a little lift of the pelvic floor, and you'll feel a natural tone of the lower abdomen and space in the front hip. And inhale, relax. Two more. Exhale, pull the foot back, feel the muscles grip the bones and the vascular tissue getting squeezed. And inhale, relax, relax the jaw and shoulders. And last one, exhale, pull the left foot back, the right knee forward. And inhale, relax. And then find yourself somewhere halfway, half engaged, half at ease. And take the left fingertip, to your right hip. And as you inhale, take that arm, sweep it forwards up, and then take it out, not behind you, but on the diagonal that directly echoes the line of your chest. So that when you turn to look at the thumb, it's an easy, natural turn of the head. I should have said also on the other side, if you feel the need to turn the left heel in slightly, that might feel more functional to you. And imagine that you're reaching to the fingertips from your heart rather than through a pulley effort in the joints. Two more breaths here, softening the shoulders. The eyes can be open or closed. And on your next exhale, bring that arm up and over and back to your right hip. And we'll do two more, just flowing that. Inhale up and open out and back. Exhale up and closing forwards. And one more time, breathing in, opening out. Feel your grace. And exhale, floating back. Two hands onto your supports. You might choose to do dog or puppy pose. This is really intense in the shoulders. Actually, I heard a teacher was doing a training with me, and she said she actually managed to dislocate her own shoulder doing puppy pose. So even though it is benign, and in a lot of yoga practices, we'd call it, quote unquote, a heart opener, which language at another time I will dissect, not my favorite term. But it certainly pulls on the tissue close to the heart and goes on the chest and into the shoulders and the lymphatic system, but go easy. Mind your joints. Shouldn't feel intense in a small location, a broad intensity where sensation is great. It's not small and isolated. And then when you're ready, coming up from your dog or your puppy and stepping the right foot forward again. And then we're going to hop the left foot onto the floor. Just be careful if your left foot lands on your folded blanket, not to let it slip. So we're hopping up to here. So that the left foot, you can have a look there. My left heel is turned slightly in. My feet are hips width apart, left to right. And I'm hoping, because none of you are beginners, that you magically have found yourself knowing where you are, aka pyramid pose, the Sanskrit of which I always forget, but with neutral spine, please, because I'm making this a osteoporosis safe practice. And for me to be perfectly comfortable here, this bolster is about an inch too low, so I'm going to take it and bring it vertical to give me a little more freedom. So just pink into, for example, your right hip joint, and that sense that you have space for a pencil there in the hip crease, so that we can add to this. Again, for the heart, through isometric contraction, we are going to push the 2 feet into the floor. Think of the muscles of your thighs gripping the bones. Lift through the pelvic floor, draw your shoulders back from your ears. Breathing. And then pressing into the floor again, could you bend the right knee, walk one hand and then the other up onto your hip, coming really slowly up into a warrior one leg position. You're very welcome to do warrior hands or just leave them on your hips, leave them dangling. Allow yourself to bring a little yin into this yang practice. So we're going to again work with the isometric contraction. Think of pulling the right foot back and the left foot forward as you exhale. Inhale, push the right foot forward and the left foot back. Exhale, pull the right foot back and the left foot pushes forward. You can blow out through the mouth, can really help when you're efforting. Inhale, push the right foot forward, the left foot back. One more time. Exhale, pull the 2 feet towards each other. Blow out through the mouth if you like. Inhale, push them apart. Now I'm going to give you a neurological, physiological challenge. Could you try and do all of that at once? Push the foot forward and back, both feet forward and back at the same time. Obviously, not physiologically possible, but actually you might find that there is something possible there. Feet pulling and pushing at the same time. You'll notice tiredness coming in the muscles. When it gets tiring, that's when we release. Inhale. And exhale, come forward into your pyramid again, but this time we're going to make it yummy. So little micro movements by perhaps wafting your little tail. And I would love you to think of these movements of the tail as very tiny. So you might want to close your eyes or keep them open, but energetically your eyes are closed and you are very internal, making tiny movements with the tail or hips, but so small that no one coming or someone coming into the room might not even notice that you're moving. Could be little figures of 8, circles. Or maybe some of you are able not to think in circles and figures of 8 and just allow little movements to happen anywhere in the body that it asks for, aiming for pleasure, pleasure, pleasure. For 2 or 3 more breaths. And on your next inhale, if you fancy it, come up slightly. And as you inhale, we'll do that arm movement again. Inhaling the right arm forwards and up, a very high reverse trikonasana. And exhale, bring that hand down again. 2 more like that. You can bend that right knee if it's tired of straight. Breathing in to open out. Look for the deliciousness leading from the heart, exhaling down. Imagine your heart is moving your arm, your chest is moving your arm. And the next time your beautiful hand returns, step the left foot up, step the right foot back. And you find, I'm sure, that that right leg is particularly tired. And that tiredness is part of what we need, unfortunately, to challenge the heart, the muscles, brain, etc. So we're in our pyramid pose again, and we are going to exhale to push the feet into the floor. Feel the muscles of the leg grab into the bone. You might find it's easier to push the feet apart or push directly down. Draw the left hip back, make space in the left hip crease. And feel free to either pulse in this so that you are exhaling to push and inhaling to relax, or take a few breaths with just this long isometric contraction, really pushing. Please don't lock that left knee. If you're locking the left knee, I wouldn't add muscular effort. I really would like you just to stop, personally, locking the left knee. And that muscular engagement is going to protect that knee as well. When you're next ready, maybe on an exhale, because it's on the exhale that we get the help of our core muscles recruited, bend your left knee and slowly push yourself up to vertical. Feel the effort of the legs to do that. And arms can do whatever they like, and we're going to push the mat away from us as we inhale, the feet away from each other as we inhale. And as you exhale, pull the feet towards each other. Maybe you want your hand on your heart and your belly. Inhale, push the feet apart. Feel that muscular effort. There's no movement visible to anyone watching you. Exhale, pull the feet together. Feel the pelvic floor. Inhale, push. Exhale, pull. Blow out through the mouth. If you're finding this effortful, it might help. Inhale, push apart. And last time, exhale, pull together. Notice the strength that you have, that you are building from your body. And then just spend a couple of breaths playing with this slightly bonkers but fun notion, I hope, of pushing and pulling the feet at the same time. Notice what it does to your brain, fibers of your muscles. It'll probably make you wobble a bit. And then rest out of that straight left leg, but not locked, bringing your hands back to your pyramid. And while I could guide you minutely in these micro movements, I would also like to let you go off piste. So if you find yourself doing absolutely anything, completely leaving this pose and doing 100 sun salutations or dancing around the room, that's fine. And for those of you who need a bit more guidance, we're going to do a slightly different version. We're going to just wobble around the surfaces of our feet, again, very minutely, and try and try and surprise yourself by not knowing where on the foot you're going to put the weight. Tiny, tiny shifts that create micro movements through the feet, through the legs, and up to the hips. Or you can go back to circling the hips or improvising. Look for the pleasure. Coming up 1/2 or 1/3 of the way. As you inhale, we're going to sweep the left arm forwards and up. Feel your grace and the deliciousness of the movement. Exhale the hand back. 2 more inhales, sweeping forwards and up and back. Moving from the chest. Feel the muscles of your back and chest making this movement. And when you're ready to bring your hand back to the bolster or the blocks, you could step back into a standing forward fold with a sort of face down dog element of long spine and hands forward. Or you might be safe to hang forwards in Uttanasana, or you might want to do dog, or you might want to do something completely different. Up to you. Take 3 or 4 breaths to search for your pleasure, your desires, your needs to be met. And then when you're ready, with care, take your knees to the floor. And we're going to come back kind of where we started on all fours. And this is our last kind of movement practice. No, it's not our last movement practice. It's our last sort of yoga-y thing. So we're going to be on our hands and knees again. And this can be done on the elbows if your wrists are sore. Or also helpful if your wrists are sore on all fours is to bring your hands up higher so there's less weight thrown onto the hands. So whatever you need, because we're a little bit of time here. This may transform this movement for you if you've done it before. Just take your left knee slightly back. So your knees are not in line. Your left knee is slightly back. Hard to see, I'm sure, in the video. My left knee is slightly back. And this frees us up for the right arm to release from the floor or bolster and inhale, open up into that lovely twist again. And exhale, bring that arm down and under and through. We're not resting. We're going to inhale and open out and up. You'll notice this is a much freer movement with that left knee back than if the knees were together. If you're a teacher, you might want to try it on to see how different that is. 3 more in your own time, opening to your grace, connecting with your seed of joy or your nugget of strength. When you get up for your last one, do you want to stay there? Do you want to come back down immediately? Notice what you'd like. And when you're ready, simply changing sides. Right hand down, swap the knees, right knee slightly back. Left arm sweeps forwards and up and opening. Exhale down and under and through. Notice that you're using the muscles of your back a lot to open up, and the muscles of your core, your abdomen, to slow the return and stop you falling. Feel your strength. Notice your grace, or notice your discomfort. All of it part of life. Rich tapestry. When you get to your last one, feel free to stay there or to immediately return to center. And when you do return to center, I offer you to take up a sitting kneel, a standing kneel, or to sit on a block or bolster, but as soon as you can, coming into stillness. And noticing what you notice. And then blink if your eyes are closed, blink them open. And take a little look around your space, wherever you are. Feel free to turn your head to get a proper look at everything. And at some point, let your eyes rest on something that maybe you don't often look at. It might be the rail of a curtain or a light switch or a plug socket. Or it might be something more interesting, but try and make whatever you're looking at interesting to you, as if you've never seen it before. Try not to define it as what it is, but look for its colors, textures, contrasts, light and shade. Notice your emotional body as you do this, and look around again till you find something that catches your interest. And if it's something that bothers you, like a cobweb, or I'm looking at a damp patch on my door, try not to think of the problem that it presents, but just look at it again objectively. Light and shade, texture, shape, contrast. And notice what's happening in your emotional body, your physical sensations of energy or mood. And if you fancy doing that one more time, feel free. And then when you're ready, could you imagine that you are holding yourself in the kind of tender hands you might hold a sick pet, or if you were minding a beloved baby niece or nephew? And just imagine the tone and quality that you would hold that beloved in. And then imagine that you were going to lay that beautiful creature down asleep and not disturb it. Could you lie yourself down on the floor now with that kind of tenderness and care. Notice the fall of your hand, how you take yourself there. We're going to end up lying on either side, whichever side you like, with or without something under your head. We're moving into a very somatic part of the practice. You might want a blanket under you. I'd like you to be warm enough that you don't have to worry about not being energized. Maybe part of that tender lying down is arranging a little nest for yourself. So you need a good bit of floor space here. I apologize, I should have said that at first as well. You're welcome to lie on your elbow. Like I say, you could also have a block or cushion under your head, which might get in your way once we start to move, but initially that's really fine. And take a moment to tune in once again to your teeny tiny seed of joy, tuning into the heart, the metaphorical heart. A shorthand I think we all kind of recognize, right? Born of the location of emotional sensations in the body. And then tuning into your deep belly, or wherever you would identify as a place where you feel a bit of strength. And just checking in, is there a word that would describe your heart now? Or your feeling? If you don't have osteoporosis, you can curl up into quite a rounded little fetal position if you like, or you can stay with neutral spine. You're welcome to have your eyes closed or open at all times, to stop anytime you want or need to, and to make this practice your own as I describe it or after I describe it, after I guide it. But allow your gaze to maintain an internal nature even if your eyes are open. And just notice, what would it be like to slide your top hand away from your body, either forwards or up towards above the head? Does that feel okay? Does it feel safe? Does it feel pleasant? And then let it slide back in again. Maybe that happen on an inhale. As you inhale, does it feel safe and pleasant to slide that right arm maybe in front of you or up over your head and slide it back? And what would happen if you also invited your top leg to slide long as well as the top hand? And if that feels too spooky, just go as far as it will go and then return. Some of you may be feeling itchy for more movement, and some of you may be just wanting the smallest version of this. As you breathe in and you extend the top limbs, if it feels okay, roll towards your back, maybe not all the way just yet. And exhale, curl back onto your side again. If that felt too much to roll towards your back, you don't ever have to do that. If you feel like you'd like to extend those limbs on your inhale, and maybe even the other limbs too begin to open out, and you're almost on your back, or maybe all the way, and then exhaling, curling onto your side again. Keep tuning in, feeding from that nugget of strength, that connection to heart and belly. Inhaling, you might end up opening all the way onto your back like a starfish. If you do, on your exhale, roll to the other side instead. And the inhale to open out. And exhale to roll to one or other side, curl in. In Yoga for Menopause, I call this the yes, no. The yes is this open place. The no is the curling in, and it is yes, I can be in the world. And no, I need permission to withdraw and connect to my center. As you do this, another maybe 6 breaths worth, notice whether you want to inhabit it on a physical level solely, or letting it meet your needs for boundaries and self-nourishment. Anything goes. 5 more breaths in your own way. For the next 3 or 4 breaths, notice what you want. Do you want to move to stillness? Do you want to let this movement change? Do you want to continue this movement? And over the next 3 breaths, unless you must continue, begin to bring this to a close any way you like, and finishing in any position your body brings you to, or your nervous system. And notice what you notice. Notice what feels right about this position for you. Notice what feels right about your choice to have your eyes open or closed. And notice any pleasure that you might be experiencing. when you feel ready, and if this is too soon for you, stay where you are, eventually finding your way to lying with your knees bent on your back. And if that feels wrong for you, please feel free to lie in any other way. The movement that I'm about to bring you to is very simple and can pretty much be done in any position. You're welcome to have your arms spread eagled on your pelvis, on your heart and belly, on your heart, on your belly, anywhere. And we're simply going to inhale to take the tail to the floor so the lower back hollows a little off the floor. And exhale to curl your tail as if you're going to tap your nose with your tail so the lower back touches the floor. Inhaling, we're rolling to the tail and making an arch in the lower back that's only about the size where you could like drive a little toy car under. Doesn't have to be big. Exhaling, let the lower back touch the floor. And as you do, could you imagine that you are drawing all the tendrils of your being back to the center of your physical body, as if you might be folding your arms into your center, into your belly, your spine, just picturing the length of you from the pelvic floor through to the inside of your pelvis, between the navel and the lower back, the center of you in the upper abdomen, the breastbone, breathing apparatus, and the upper spine. The upper chest, the upper part of the upper spine. I'm going to morph this now as you inhale, bring the arms wide and the knees wide. And as you exhale, bring the knees and arms in and imagine you are gathering in to your center, bringing the hands towards the body, all the tendrils of your care. Inhaling, the knees and arms go wide. Exhaling, gathering the bits of yourself that are pulled hither and yon all the time. Inhaling, embracing what it is to be human in this world. And exhaling, gathering yourself to center. Bring those hands onto the heart and belly, a gesture of wholeness, connection. Two more, inhaling wide. Exhale, even if the feet might want to come off the floor, to cuddle the knees into, gathering in. And inhaling wide. And as you gather in, stay gathered in. You might want to hold the knees or you might want to hold the body. You might want your feet on or off the floor. And then when you're ready, bring your feet down, roll to your side. If you have a bolster or some cushions, could you bring them lengthways on your mat? And above the top end of the bolster, pop a couple of yoga bricks if you have them, or some cushions with a gap, a small gap between the top of the bolster and the cushions. You can just about see that there. Lying with your pubic bone, your belly, and your chest on the bolster, you might find that the most comfortable position for your neck is to have your forehead on the upper support so that you can bring your elbows to the floor. This is basically child's pose without the knees curled up, so it's much easier for ankles, knees, and hips. If you feel like your shoulders are getting scrunched up around your ears here, you might want to elevate the top end of your bolster so that your shoulders aren't scrunched up. You need to have space for your nose, so you're not lying your chin on whatever is under your head. You're lying the forward and keeping as neutral in your neck as you can. If you prefer normal supported child's pose, you're welcome. And if lying on your belly just doesn't work for you, it might be because you have marvelous bosom, or you might find it a bit kind of pressury on your chest, or just psychologically a bit spooky. You can lie on your side and hug your bolster, or you can lie on your back and hug your bolster, or cushions will do fine too. And as you lie here, just noticing the support beneath you, whether it's behind you, to your side, or to your front. Notice your breath if that feels comfortable to connect with, and the expansion of your back. And notice now, after being here for a little while, if you could allow for a little more physical melting or relaxation. Is there a bit of you that might be unconsciously holding maybe a shoulder, a jaw? Maybe it's one toe or the pelvic floor, maybe. And if it's not possible to relax more, what is it about this position that's not serving you? And how might you change? As we stay here for another 3 minutes, notice whether that sounds inviting to you or problematic. And if it feels problematic, why not allow yourself to choose something different? Noticing whether you'd like to stay in this position or to choose from one of two other restorative options. I'll describe them to you first so that you can decide at your leisure. Two simple options. One would be legs up the wall. Why might you do that? The reason they say that it is good for the induction of sleep is because when we are in inversion, our breath naturally slows. And so it is a sort of external induction of the parasympathetic response. Or you could do reclining cobbler, which is very much about stretching, but it's a very gentle and held stretch. And yes, actually, one of you there getting a low table to put the legs up on, which is a very nice option for legs up the wall, to put the legs on a chair or a sofa. I'll show you reclining cobbler first for anyone who doesn't know it, and then just guide you to legs up the wall. So reclining cobbler can be done on a flat bolster or one that's elevated at the top end. And then at either end of the bolster, at the end of the bolster, you need to put cushions and or blocks that are high enough for your knees in a open kneed position. So don't scrimp on the height of your supports. We need in restorative yoga to have all joints supported. And certainly when I was learning first in reclining cobbler, we just had a block under the thigh bone. We didn't have anything under the shin. So the knee wasn't truly supported. So there's a potential for a bit of torsion there. So make sure you have something that is going to support both ends of the legs. Then you sit at the front. Don't bother about the feet first. I'll just get that out of the way so you can see. Sit at the end of the bolster and lie back. Even with the block, some of you might find your head is tilted back like that, in which case you need your folded blanket to get neutral in the head. This is not about this kind of thing they call a heart opener, where you're poking your chest up to the ceiling and it's all a bit radically challenging. It's reasonably neutral in the spine. The extension happens a lot down here. If it's too much for you, tuck your bum under with your hand so that the extension isn't so extreme, or you can creep down the bolster a little to reduce that back bend. Where the upper back bend comes is a lot from the position of the elbows being lower than the rib cage, lower than the chest, and they do want to reach the floor. If the elbows aren't on the floor, please put a folded blanket or a book or something under your elbows. And then you can do this with legs flat out, knees bent naturally, or in the feet together and the knees and shins resting on something. If you do have something to place over your eyes, it's really nice. You can use a blanket over the top of your head and down over your eyes is quite nice too. Feeling that little bit of pressure on the top of your head can be very soothing of the blanket. And you need to feel 100% physically comfortable so that you feel physically safe, because you won't relax if you don't feel physically safe. And then there may be emotional discomfort from being so exposed that you might be able to adjust by putting a bolster on your belly or cushions on your belly, or even just a blanket on you. If you are doing legs up the wall, it's a good idea to get your bum as close into the wall as you can first, so that when you lie on your back, the legs go up the wall and the wall isn't so far away. Otherwise, the knees tend to lock. You're welcome, if you are doing legs up the wall, to pop a bolster, you could do a bolster or a block under your pelvis to create a little back bend and a little more elevation of the pelvis. If you've osteoporosis, just be really careful when you're lifting your pelvis that you don't round the spine too much to get the support under there. Feel free to unmute yourselves, those of you who are with me, if you have any questions. And when you are settled, make a second check. Am I okay? Do I feel safe? And can I surrender my weight? And also, is there anything in this for me? Do I feel any pleasure, any joy in this? Let's not make it all so reverent and, self-improving. What's in it for me? It's an important question we don't often allow ourselves to ask in yoga. Often, what could make me better? But no, What could make this better for me? And checking in again with your heart, your belly. And though we'll be here for another 5 minutes, feeling free to change your position at any time you feel the need or desire. I want to read you, as you rest there, a translation of a few of the Yoga Sutras. I almost don't want to tell you the name of the person who wrote this translation because I know that some people really love him and some don't so much, but I need to accredit the individual. So it is a translation by not Matt Licata, I beg your pardon, Matthew Remski. And it goes like this, and I feel it here. Calmness arises from friendship, empathy, delight, equality towards others, or spaciousness in breathing, or a feeling of stillness in sensuality, or when experience is light and joyful, or when you observe the senses without expectation or assumption, or by meditating upon dreams or sleep, or by holding in your heart something you love. Calmness arises from friendship, empathy, delight, and equality towards others, or spaciousness in breathing, or a feeling of stillness in sensuality, or when experience is light and joyful, or when you observe the senses without expectation or assumption, or by meditating upon dreams or sleep, or by holding in your heart something you love. You're welcome to stay there for an hour, half an hour, 20 minutes, as long as you like. But as you feel ready, begin to notice the shape you're making in the room. Notice the sensations in your hands. Perhaps notice your breath or not. Notice something that you hear. Notice the play of light and shade behind your eyes. And very gently, when you feel ready, blink your eyes open. You may want to remove or not remove your blanket first and let your eyes just wander casually around your space. And as you look around, allow yourself to begin to connect with the world you live in while staying connected to the joy of your practice. I like to imagine in this moment that I'm taking a little Polaroid snapshot of how I feel and that I can carry it with me in my pocket. And even if I can't be back in this place, I can know that it's possible. A little secret that I hold with me wherever I go. As and when you feel ready to roll to your side and come to sit, just get comfortable for 2 minutes vertical if you're coming to vertical, staying where you are if you're not. And hold up an open hand in front of you. And imagine that in that open hand, in your palm is resting something that you would like to change. Might be something about you and your life. It could be something very small or very large. And bring the other hand to hold that hand beneath it. And imagine that you can hold with patience the unfolding of that which you would like to be different. Notice the little seed of joy in your heart, the nugget of strength in your belly, and perhaps, if it feels right, in a protective gesture, closing your fingers over that issue and holding it to your heart. I'm going to finish with a teeny tiny bit of our friend Mary Oliver, When I Am Among the Trees. When I am among the trees, especially the willows and the honey locust, equally the beech, the oaks and the pines, they give off such hints of gladness. I would almost say that they save me, and daily. I am so distant from the hope of myself, in which I have goodness and discernment, and never hurry through the world, but walk slowly and bow often. Around me the trees stir in their leaves and call out, stay a while. The light flows from their branches, and they call again. It's simple, they say. And you too have come into the world to do this. to go easy, to be filled with light and to shine. If you feel that you would like to speak a word or write a word out loud or in private, please do so. May all beings be well. May all beings be free from harm. May all beings know peace. Om Shanti, peace, namaste, I bow to you. Please go easy with yourself, especially if that has felt like a stirring practice, and thank you for joining.